All right, so today is part 1 of our Adobe Illustrator creation and how we are going to take this crab and pull it into Character Animator. So this is a crab that we created in our Illustrator unit, and there's a YouTube video that shows you how to create this crab. So if you haven't created the crab, you can visit that YouTube video. However, we're going to take this crab and set it up so that we can use it to animate it in Adobe Character Animator. The first step we're going to do is we're going to rename the layer, the main layer, as the name of our creature. So you would put a plus sign and then the name of the creature. So let's say this is Krabby, and that's my creature name. Then I'm going to open up all of this. Now, you're going to have a bunch of different random layers here, and we're going to have to get organized, and we're going to have to name all of these layers. Now, the exact name of these doesn't completely matter, but whenever we pull it into Character Animator, we do need to have things grouped into certain types of groups. So I'm going to start, I think the easiest thing is basically to turn off everything. And we're going to first divide this into the head and the body. Now notice that all of this is what I would call my body. Now I don't know what this is. I've got some sort of, and by the way, to select something, you can like click on this, and if it turns blue, you'll select it. So there's nothing on this layer. So I'm going to, oh no, wait, here it is. It's this little part here. I guess it was selecting it and I didn't see. So this is going to be part of my arm. So I'm going to group all of this stuff into the body. So while all of these layers are on and none of these others, I'm just going to take my arrow and draw a big box around it all and Control G to group. You can also go to Object and Group, but it's Control G. Now this is all grouped and this is my body. I'm just going to call that body. Okay. Now the cool thing is we can completely turn this off. Okay, then we're going to go up here and start turning all these on. And of course, these should all be the head, but we want to double check and make sure all the layers have a purpose. So you're going to, once you get them all selected here, or turned on and visible, then we're going to select all of this. And we can do the same thing. You can also click like this to select things, or if you hold down Control, you can click multiple ones to select them this way. But to be honest, it's just easier to draw a big box around them if you have everything else turned off. So now that I've got all of this selected, I'm going to group all of these, Control G, and this is going to be the head. So that part's pretty simple. Now, at this point, we've got to break these into even smaller groups. So we get in here, and I'm going to deal with the legs. And now the legs are pretty easy because they're all just legs. But if you had like feet attached to these, then these would be legs, and you'd have like leg and a foot or whatever. So this is just going to be, leg 1, leg 2, leg 3, leg 4. You can just call them leg. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to name all these the same thing. Okay, I'm going to turn all these off. Okay, next I need to take care of the arms. Now it looks like I already grouped one of these arms, so let me double check. And yep, that seems to be working. So we'll call this arm. And then I need to turn that arm off and select all the pieces of the other arm. Now, something else is selecting, and we don't want that, so we want to be very careful here to make sure that we're only getting the pieces that we need. So if you get kind of paranoid about it, again, we can hold down that Control key and select each of these pieces this way so that we're only selecting those. We shouldn't be selecting anything way over here. Control G to group. And now we have the other arm. So now I have 2 arms. And I have all these legs in the body. Okay, so we're done with the body for now. I'm just going to turn the body off. We're back up here into the head. Now we've got to group these into pieces. Now this is basically just going to be the face. So we'll just call it face. And then you've got your eyebrows. And so we can go ahead and call those brows. But separate from those, and I'm going to move the brows just up here at the top, we've got to start putting the eyeballs themselves together. And all the pieces for one eyeball have to be adjacent to each other. And mine are spread out. So they have to be on layers that are right next to each other. So what I need to do is turn off everything and figure out where one specific eyeball is. So I'm just going to turn everything off and deal with an eyeball. So here is a pupil. I'm not sure what that goes to, but we'll see here in a minute. All right, there we go. It's this part of this eye. And then this must over be the other side. Now, I can't group these right now because there's an empty row there between these. So I got to pull this guy down So these are all adjacent. And then I can select these. Now again, I got to be careful here. If I start selecting things that aren't part of it, that's a problem. So we want to make sure again that we're only getting the ones we need. So I'm going to hold down Control and click the 3 pieces that I need, and only those 3 pieces, and press Control G to group. And then this is one of my eyes. Now I'm going to do the same thing here for the other eye. So I'm going to click off of those. Obviously this must go to this other eye, so I'm going to pull it down here. And then turn this one off and turn these pieces on. I'm going to make sure that this is working properly. It looks like it is. So again, click and hold down my button here and click those. Control G to group. And we have got the other eye. And you could call these like eye 1, eye 2, and all that if you want to. Okay, so I've got my eyes, I got my face, I got my brows. All that's left now is my mouth. So I'm going to find my pieces of my mouth and put them all together and group them. And this is now my mouth. Okay, so we have our base image now for our creature, if you will. We've got it all there. And of course you could change the position of any of these to its rest position if you wanted him to have his arms down or whatever, which is what I've done in my other example. But you're going to name all of those layers and be very careful to make sure that they are named in such a way that we can turn off the entire body and turn off the entire head, and that the eye is grouped together. Now, when it comes to Character Animator, you're allowed to have animation to parts separate from things, independent animation, if they have plus signs on them. Now, our eyebrows, we're going to let those things up, like raise. So we're going to put plus signs in front of these brow layers. So just put a plus sign in there. We'll just do the brows themselves first. But you would do the same thing with other parts that are going to move independent of the character. For now, I'll just do the brow. Okay? So I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to go into Character Animator. Oops, that's not Character Animator. Character Animator. And when you go in, if you've opened it before, there may be a splash screen or something that comes up or not. If you've had a previous project open, which I did, that's going to pop up. But we're going to do a new project. And so in your folder or wherever, I'm going to call this my crab project and hit save. And this will be my new project. So here it is. And then we're going to import this crab that we created. So file and import, and it will be over here. Now, before we can use the crab, we'll have to drag the crab down to the timeline. But to work with the crab, we just double click it. And that opens the crab in this puppet part. Now the crab's not in the actual scene. So to use the crab in a scene and have a timeline, we drag it down. So just click on it and drag it down. So now I can see my crab 2 ways. I can see it in the scene, and I can see it as its puppet. Now this is important because we have to animate it through this puppet. Okay, so we'll start with these eyebrows. I'm going to click on brow, and it tells you which one this is. And I'm going to map it over here to these tags. So this brow corresponds with this brow, right? And then this one, brow 2, corresponds with this brow. Okay, now one of the problems that we had in class is that you can't see these eyebrows because they're black. Additionally, my screen is over on a different side and my webcam is over there. So I've got to go look at my webcam and set my rest pose. That centers him up. And then as I lift my eyebrows, which you can't see, they would be moving over here, hopefully. However, what we're going to need to do is to make these brows have a stroke or something around them so that we can actually see them on that black background. So I'm just going to double click until I isolate the brow. Now I'm in isolation mode. And I'm going to go ahead and put a white stroke on here. I'll make it a 2-pixel white stroke. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to keep double clicking until I get inside there to the isolation mode for the brow. So there we are. And I'm going to give that a little stroke too. Again, I'm just going to give it a weight of 2 and return to my scene. Now I'm back out to the main scene here. Let me get all the way back out here. All right, once you hit File, Save, if you go back to Character Animator, it will update. Okay? And so now I've got it all kinds of confused because I'm over here. But now, see my eyebrows moving up and down? Okay? So there we go. There's our eyebrows, and our eyebrows are happy, and they're floating around. We can see them now because we've got that little white on there. Now, by the way, while you're messing around with your scene, you can transform the scale so you can see them better. There you go. All right, so there's that. Our next thing that we're going to animate is the eyeballs. And to do that, we're going to have to go back to Illustrator. And we've got to tell it we're going to animate the eyes. So we're going to put a plus sign in front of the eye, both eyes. And another thing that we have to do is we want the pupils to move around in the eye. The little black part of the eyeball needs to move around. So we're going to open those up, and we're going to name those pupil with a plus sign. Okay, so I'm going to open that up, pupil, with a plus sign, because if we don't have the plus sign, it won't let us animate it separately. All right, now we also want to be able to blink, and we don't have a way to blink these eyeballs. So we're going to copy that blue part of the eye and just duplicate that and make it an eyelid. So I'm in this eye here. I'm going to drag this path, which is like the eyeball. I'm going to drag this ball here down to this new layer, which gives me a second one. I'm just going to pull it up here so it's in front of it. I'm going to call that the blink lid, or you can just call it eyelid or whatever. And I'm going to click on it. So I need to isolate it. So double click, double click, double click till I get down to the blink. Keep double clicking until you get there. I'm just going to make it a different color. I think in class I just used some sort of a red. If you don't want it to be all the way closed, you could kind of, move it just a teeny bit or whatever. Totally up to you here on this. So I've got that. Now I'm going to go back out to my scene all the way. And now I've got that lid in there. Now I need one for the other eye too. So I'm just going to drag this down to make another copy and drag this one into the other eye. And then I can decide how I want to deal with that one. Now right now it's in the same spot, so I got to move it. So I'm going to click on it here, so select it. Oops. To select it, and I selected everything. See, everything's blue. To isolate, you can use your white arrow. That's probably the easiest way here. There we go. And then I'm going to drag this one over here. Alrighty. Oops, I must have dragged the wrong one. Or I've dragged them both. Who knows what's going on. All kinds of things. See, I'm clicked on the wrong one. Let's come back over here and click on the right one. Alright. Always fun to watch me mess up, right? Not even sure really where this one is. It shows here that this one is in front of this eye. I've got them on the wrong eyeballs, of all things. Let's try this again. Boy, I hope I don't mess you up. I bet I've totally messed you up. Okay, so I've got these guys on here. And now we're good. So I'm going to turn off the blink layers for the moment. And I'm going to save. Now we're going to go back into Character Animator. It's going to update. This doesn't make the eyes work. We have to go in here to our puppet and map the eyes. A couple things we have to do. First off, so I'm going to close the body. I'm going to open the eyes. So I'm going to click on the first eye, and I have to map this eye to this outline of the eye. Oops, not that. This. And I need to map this eye to this line here to set the boundary of the eye, which is for the pupil, actually. All right, and then the same thing here. Click on the other eye, set the boundary. Oops. Notice you just click again to set it to a different thing if you mess up. And then this one here. Then find the pupil, which if you put a plus sign, she'll have a crown by it. The crowns are by the plus signs. And then take your pupil and map it to this one. And then take this pupil and map it to this one. It's really better to click the layers than it is to try to click on the dots sometimes on here. All right. So at this point, now I've got to set the blink. So this is the blink for this eye, right? And I need to set, well, make sure you're in the right eye so you're not confused. I need to set this blink to this eye. So this little line in between is the blink line, okay? And then over here for this eye, this blink to this blink line. Okie doke. Hopefully this makes sense. So we've set those little things here. I'm going to go back to my scene. It's going to prepare. And now if I look over here and I blink, it works. And you should see the eyeballs moving. And I can't look at you and do it at the same time because my webcam's on the wrong screen. But you see the way this works. Okay? And so that's your goal here. Now if you wanted to make the eye blink separate, like so you can wink, you can roll down face and under blink eyes together, uncheck it. Now I can wink. Unless you don't want to do that, in which case you can set that. So, all right, there's part 1, day 1 of animating the crab.